And it's all my pleasure that we have the Mar Vista High School Navy Junior ROTC to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And I just want to thank them. They do lots of events there at my breakfast and the State of the City address, and it's just great. A graduate of Mar Vista, it's great. I knew a lot of friends in the RTC, and I know the former RTC commander at Coronado, Ken Ireland. It's a good friend of mine. So it's great to have you guys here once again. Thank you. So please rise. We do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. We look forward to seeing you on Sunday at Military Appreciation Day. For agenda changes, I would like to entertain a motion to remove closed session item number 1 from the agenda. Please vote. Are there any other agenda changes?
Councilmember Bragg,
Any other? Want to go through?
motion carried unanimously.
Any other changes? Great, thank you. And now we have council announcements. Mr. Patton, would you like to start?
Sure. Just real quick, the public safety open house was a huge success. Agencies from all around the county were there. Tons of people. I think it was the biggest I've seen. So congratulations to IB Fire and the rest of our public safety, sheriff, lifeguards. I went to the Palm Avenue revitalization workshop last week, and it was very interesting. They're working on trying to blend into one of our plans, or possibly one of our plans. And the funny thing was, most of the people I saw there were from Imperial Beach, and this is for the San Diego section of Palm Avenue. So I thought it was a good event, and as a board of directors of Sandag, I thought it was important I go. And speaking of Sandag, at the last Sandag meeting I went to, they really talked about Live Well San Diego, which Imperial Beach is part of. I've made great connections there. I've been speaking with one of the head honchos from Caltrans, talking about some of the traffic on the Strand, see how we could alleviate that problem. Great connections with Consul General from Mexico, as well as other cities. So Sandag has been going really strong. The new fence on IB Boulevard and Seacoast, which is, I thought our vote on that new fence was a home run. It really came out very nice. I was going to get a lawn chair and just sit in the middle of it and hang out, which I may do later tonight. And then finally, I just wanted to say to Mr. Villa, this youth survey made its way all the way down to Mendoza Elementary School. And I know a lot of the teachers and students from and parents from that school thank you and Imperial Beach for getting that survey down to Mendoza Elementary School. Even though Mendoza Elementary, as you know, is not part of San Diego, it is part of the South Bay School District. So I think that was a big hit that you took it down that way. And then of course, the mayor mentioned Military Appreciation Day, Sunday, November 8th, Pier Plaza, 12:30 to 3:30. That's it. Thank you.
Ms. Bragg?
Thank you. On October 23rd, the mayor and I attended the county mental health outreach forum that was held here in our city. There were 20 to 30 agencies that were represented at that outreach forum, and it was really interesting. The mayor spoke very passionately about mental health issues in our community, and of course that encompasses a lot of different categories. Of course, drug abuse, alcoholism, domestic violence, depression, anxiety, and later in the evening, this topic will again come up about a healthy Imperial Beach includes a healthy mental health component of it as well. And on October 29th, at the regular meeting of the MTS board meeting, of which I am a representative, they gave a 2015 year highlights. And one of the things that they were talking about, of course, was the rehabilitation of the Blue Line. That was a $64 million project, just the Blue Line alone. And the Blue Line is the most productive light rail system in the country. So that's something that MTS can really be proud of. I'm very proud of the people in the South Bay who utilize that system. And it also has the highest fare box recovery rate in the system, which I like to say is that the people in the South Bay really pull their weight and pay their fair share. The other thing that the Blue Line has done has transformed so many lives, and I keep talking about that, but it really has made great changes in the community for people getting to and from work or recreation. So it was just, it was an interesting report. I do have it here. I'd love to share it with anybody who would like to take a look at it. And MTS has also launched a new website. The website that we previously had not been updated in 8 years. So you can imagine how things have changed in 8 years. It's much friendlier. It's much easier to use. And I would encourage everybody to take a look at it, try to use it, see what you think. And if you have any issues with it, please let me know so I can convey that back to our staff at MTS. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Spriggs?
Thank you. Just a couple things for me. I attended the South County Economic Development Council meeting on yesterday morning. The mayor was also there and the city manager. Very interesting presentation by the city of Chula Vista on all the developments that are planned for Chula Vista. Now, we often think of the Bay projects, the Bayfront projects that are going to be major in terms of attracting tourists. But a lot of the emphasis was on the backside, the Otay side of Chula Vista, and some of the industrial park type planning that's going on there, and the planning for what will hopefully be a major four-year university here in the South Bay, located in that same general vicinity. So it was very exciting, and if anyone's interested in the details, I'd be happy to talk with them later, and I'm sure the mayor or city manager would as well. But it's clear that the South Bay, the data shows it, is the most rapidly developing part of San Diego County, both in terms of economic growth and population growth. And I think Chula Vista has got some great plans, and so does the South County EDC for that matter, to facilitate that growth and development in a wise manner. Let's see, last Thursday, I participated in a webinar, which is an online kind of seminar provided by the California Coastal Commission on preparation for this coming Friday's Coastal Commission workshop with the League of California Cities, which has established a 6-person work group to work with the Coastal Commission on their sea level rise guidance and sea level rise issues. And I happen to be one of the 6 people appointed to do that, 2 from Southern California, 2 from the middle of the state, and 2 from Northern California. So I'll be going to that session this Friday. And one last matter, and this is mainly for my colleagues here on the City Council. All of us received this magazine called Western City. And it has an absolutely outstanding article. I know we all read it cover to cover every time we get it. It's once a month. And the article is forecasting for an uncertain fiscal future. And it takes the case of some of the cities like Stockton that have gotten into financial trouble. And it really, in very readable fashion, talks about the importance of long-range economic planning and to forecast under different scenarios what's going to happen in our city budget. And I would commend this to every member of the council to read. And at some point in time, Mr. City Manager, I'd like us to have an agenda item to talk about this, not part of the budget, but just as a sort of thinking opportunity to express some of the issues in the article and how they affect Imperial Beach, whether we have some of the same vulnerabilities. For example, CalPERS changes and long-term obligations and that sort of thing. So again, commend this to everyone, and hope that we can talk about it more in the future. And that's all for me.
Great, thank you. Mr. Bilbray.
Thank you. Just to touch on the Military Appreciation Day on Sunday that Mr. Patton was talking about, Hutchins Realty is paired up with the VFW and will be hosting the beer garden this Sunday. And the proceeds will be going towards the VFW, and encouraged to call. So if you can make it out there, Coronado Breweries donated some of their craft beer, and it should be a good time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So if it was a home run on the fence, does that mean we were like murderers row from the Yankees? Like, did we all like, so maybe we all hit home runs. The fence looks awesome. And I think it's really good role modeling for the rest of our property owners to show like just a slight little thing like that can actually make a big difference. So yeah, thank you all for supporting that. I think that's great. It looks really, really good. More good news. I worked with the Amgen Tour California to bring the tour, one of the world's largest bike tours to Imperial Beach. That'll be May 15th. Bill Walton, who is NBA Hall of Famer and one of San Diego's most ardent cyclists, loves IB. He knows every bike route. He comes here and hangs out and drinks coffee. So he played a role in that. So we're excited about that. The tour organizers are going to talk to City Manager Andy Hollins, Assistant City Manager Steve Dush, talk about the route. It's not going through Coronado. It's coming from downtown and making a right turn on Palm, and make a left turn on Seacoast and a left turn on IB Boulevard. So they're just taking time out of the tour to come to Imperial Beach. So we think that's really, really nice. And it's the first time that it'll actually be starting in San Diego. Really pleased that I played a role in helping pitch the International Olympic Committee on bringing the beach games to San Diego. They just announced that. That'll be a different type of Olympic event, but they'll be based out at the Olympic Training Center and downtown. They'll have BMX out at the training center. But if you don't remember the '84 Olympics, Mr. Patton, do you remember the semi-Olympic teams on when we were lifeguarding on the beach in IB? Basically, '84 Olympics, we had Olympic teams all over South County training. And so I'm looking at this beach games. We'll have all the we'll have, surfing and volleyball and BMX and all different types of sports. But basically, that'll be a big economic driver in the region. You'll have people from all over the world coming to San Diego. So our hotels will be poised to capture that market. And we definitely look forward to working with the Olympic Committee to see what we can do in IB. But it should be really great. So they were very excited about Imperial Beach as well. They knew about IB, and the Olympic Committee in San Diego, the host committee, is very supportive of Imperial Beach and bringing stuff to South County. So that's great. Unfortunately, with the beach games, we also have beach closures. The county announced that our beach was closed today, and along with Silver Strand. So they also announced accelerated water quality testing. They have a whole testing schedule they'll be doing. So we're going to see, we have the second round of the Dempsey Holder Ocean Festival on Saturday. Second time it might be postponed. And then we have obviously Military Appreciation Day. So anyway, we have been communicating with all agencies at different levels in the US and Mexico to get them to turn on a diverter pipe in the river. So hopefully tomorrow they can do that. In theory, they should be doing that. So we'll see if they respond. There were 27 sewage spills in the Tijuana River this year, with spilling 35 million gallons, which seems obviously to be a big problem. So we're working on that. And I want to thank our city staff for being honored as well. There was a good discussion in Tijuana yesterday at the Sandag Cobro meeting about this issue, and City Manager Andy Hall weighed in to talk about the need to improve infrastructure. Even after the state of Baja California rep said that nothing needed to happen. So it's important that we're there. And then last week I was in Tijuana for a conference, a Green Tijuana conference. And along with our Mexican people on this panel about green cities, who all said that Tijuana shouldn't be dumping or putting sewage in the Tijuana River, they should be reusing that water. They recognize that the only solution to this issue is to reuse our water. And so anyway, that's hopefully where we're gonna be going. And now we have, any other announcements from city staff? I think we have a couple of.
Yeah,
John
Mayor and
French
Council,
and Steve Dish.
Chief French would like to talk to
Okay.
you guys a little bit about our upcoming open house for El Nino preparations and sea level rise. And then I just got late word that the Assistant City Manager has an announcement from one of our applicants.
Here tonight to talk a little bit about the upcoming workshop on November 17th. It's going to be a great time and great learning experience and opportunity for city staff and for the community to learn about sea level rise and El Nino. El Nino has been a big topic in the news here the last couple months, and this is a perfect opportunity for us to get out there as city staff and let the citizens know that we are prepared for an emergency and ways that they can get prepared. So we're going to have information tables set up out there. We're going to have a county OES, Red Cross, SDG&E, and a bunch of different organizations out there with information on how everybody can be prepared and how we are as a city prepared. So that's going to be November 17th at 6 p.m. at the Tijuana Estuary. Hope to see everybody there.
Thank you very much. Now we have Assistant City Manager Steve Dish.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. The applicant of the property, or the owner of the applicant of the property, the fence that you all spoke of tonight, wanted to be here this evening to announce a neighborhood workshop that they're going to be conducting on November 19th at the community center. There's a flyer, and it's again November 19th, which is a Thursday, from 6 to 8 p.m. For a proposed Imperial Beach Resort project. So again, they got caught up in the incident that's occurring at the airport and were unable to be here, and sent us an email late in the day indicating that they wanted to be here to share that news with you. And so we're here just to express that. And that was it.
Thank you, Mr. Dish. Okay, we have a couple, I have two speaker slips. Mr. Gamine? Yes. And just remember to state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
I'm Fabrice Gonin. I'm living in 1036 Emory Street. And I'd just like to let you know that the Sweetwater Union High School district got some money to spend. And I got 2 kids in the high school here in Mar Vista. And I think that school needs a lot of renovation. And took some paperwork from the meeting yesterday. So I bring some to you so you can look at it. And many of you know Mar Vista is 65-year-old. The pool is in terrible condition. We don't have any pool in the city. Maybe if we go with the district, we can maybe pull some money and get something new. Same thing with tennis court. We don't have any tennis court. So if the district wants to spend some money, maybe it's the time to do it. And I think we got 10 removable structure in a campus. We're still here for maybe 20, 25 years. 30, I don't know, who knows. And the drama building is just a shame. I mean, nobody do anything in it, just terrible. So in my opinion, the city council should have a representative with working with the Water and Union District. And maybe we can do a committee or something and try to get that pot money spent in IB, because Imperial Beach, it's only city we got their own school in the district. Everybody else, they got neighborhood school. We got a city school. So just try to bring that to you. And hopefully we can do something for the kids here, because our school are our future. And Mar Vista, it's our school. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gomin. Mr. Carey? I like your very poetic representation. Self plus some others. That's very nice.
I'll have to explain that briefly. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Name is Michael Carey, live 862 4th Street. I'm it's getting past more than 30-year resident, I think it is now. So been here a long time. I'm coming here speaking at public comments because that's deemed the appropriate place if one wants to raise an issue that could be put on the agenda in the future. So that's my intent. I represent myself, and when I say some others, I was involved in the recent dialogue with the city about what was called the Lighthouse Project. And then after that, the Florida Street Project. So I've talked to a number of those people who are in support of what I'm expressing tonight. And I'm also in a very real way, and I have talked to a bunch of them, talking to some of the residents from back in the 90s when we had a whole lot of activity in the town. And among other things, we gathered signatures and passed a thing called Proposition P. And in fact, the Dedinas were very active in that, along with a whole bunch of us at the time. And I feel that's very pertinent to what I'm talking about tonight. What we're requesting, I'll start with that in case I run out of time, is that a review process for the current zoning regulations with a special emphasis on the MU1 and MU2 zones, which seem to be where many of the recent issues have been coming up. We would like this issue to be put on the council agenda in the near future for discussion and then hopefully implementation of a review process. That review process should include council, staff, and members of the community in general terms if we get there. There are several issues to be considered. The main one is that in the new MU zoning, some all residential projects can be built using commercial restrictions. There's one on Elm Street, which is now at 35 feet and it's all residential. And then the one that we more recently dealt with, the one in Florida, where it was going to be 40 feet. And again, with no setbacks and commercial restrictions, because the new restriction things in the MU zone allow for that, even though it was meant to have commercial in it. In light of this, there are a range of other issues in the zoning that I would just refer to. I just want to say briefly, because I'm running already out of time, that Prop P from the 90s was written and circulated by the community and passed with well over 60%. It set restrictions on height and density that were to be incorporated into the city's 1994 general plan, which is still in effect with some subsequent modifications. And it said in Prop P that any changes in the zoning regulations were to be approved by a vote of the residents. It feels to me that we've gotten to a point where at least the spirit, if not the letter of Prop P, has perhaps been violated. And so again, I'm asking that you consider putting on the agenda at some time for a discussion of a review of zoning in light of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carey.
Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, I know
I think we have to make sure we're clear about responding on non-agenda items.
I'm not trying to respond, take any action,
Okay,
but we can speak, but we can't take action.
okay.
Is that correct?
You can briefly direct the city manager or provide direction to the city manager related to putting it on a future agenda or something of concern that you wanted to, but we can't have a back and forth discussion on something
Oh, I
that's not on
wasn't,
the agenda.
I wasn't doing that.
Sure.
I was actually asking, given the mayor the courtesy, asking him if we could possibly get this on the next agenda or possibly even look at a ad hoc committee and something I'd like to be part of. That's all.
Okay.
I agree with that it ought to go on an agenda or on a workshop. I've also run into comments from the community about similar kinds of concerns, and there could very well be loopholes that we need to address. So I think it'd be a good idea.
It might be good to have, are we allowed to have back and forth now or not? Or I guess my,
It should be limited to directing this be put on a future
I-
agenda kind of thing.
I wasn't clear on what's being requested, so it would be good to have something in writing, so with some options or alternatives, maybe that would be the next agenda item, so we're actually clear on what line of action we're pursuing. and what kind of process we're undergoing, how that fits in with the city sort of, yeah, and more importantly, have the city attorney review that so we're clear about what we're doing. Because if it involves code changes, that's a whole different, I guess that's what I'm concerned about. If anything involving code changes or whatever, that's a whole process that needs to be embarked on. There's a whole legal process about that, so.
Well, just to have the discussion doesn't necessarily involve action, but just getting the facts and hearing the different sides and where some of the problems have been. And it may take more than between now and the next council meeting in a couple weeks to allow staff and city attorney time to just put a report together on what the issues might be. So I think it ought to be as soon as we can, but not necessarily absolutely in 2 weeks' time. We need to have a well-informed discussion.
If I may. Now, this is direction, so I feel confident making this request. I noticed that in Mr. Carey's comments, he did not mention the design review board. And I think that should be, that they should have an opportunity too. So it would be the council and design review board.
Thank you all very much. All right, number 1.2, vector control update by Chris Conlon, San Diego County Supervising Vector Ecologist. This is something that's been on the mind of our, did I miss 1.1? Oh, I'm sorry. I missed it. Sorry. Presentation 1.1, completed BSA Eagle project presentation by Todd Strisma, restoration of the eastern portion of the native plant garden adjacent to the Bayshore Bikeway at 10th Street. And Mr. Levine will introduce the item, I guess.
Council member, mayor and council, it's probably a month ago, much more than that, you gave approval for an Eagle project in the native plant garden to the west of the public works yard. That project is complete, and Todd is here to kind of give you a summary of what went on. It's the largest project we've had in our city by an Eagle Scout, so I'm very proud and pleased to have you listen to his presentation. It'd be just a couple minutes.
Sounds great.
This could be the most interesting thing you guys do all night, maybe.
Okay, well,
Maybe.
I agree. It's way better than zoning.
Okay, so so this is right next to the bike path. I forgot what it's called, right? And so we started this on October 1st and 2nd, and then we finished it a few weeks ago, right? So it was a total of 6 days that we worked. It was only supposed to be 4 because it was so much work. I didn't plan on that, right? It was a total of 262 hours, and if you add up all the return volunteers, it was a total of 71. So, I mean, I did it, but it wasn't just me, right? And so I recorded the whole thing. Sometimes you might see that it stops the video. That's because the camera died because we were working so hard. Okay, so I'll just let it play and then I'll talk about it. Cool. Okay, so I have some pictures. There are 3 different orders. I mean, I have before and afters. There before, during, and afters. I probably should have made a PowerPoint for these, but maybe next time if I do another project. Right. And so if you saw those 2 big mounds of mulch, or to refresh, if you forgot about the project, right? There were a ton of weeds there. You saw that, and so we took out the weeds, and then we figured out what plants were supposed to be there, and then we planted the plants that were supposed to be there if they weren't there still, and then we laid down the mulch. And so those 2 big piles were basically, the plants took like 20 minutes to plant. That was the easy part, right? So those, to put this into perspective, like I said, we were gonna put 2 inches of mulch. So there was gonna be twice as much there if Mr. Levine did not, if he advised otherwise, if he did not advise otherwise. So that could have easily been an 8 to 9 day project. So I only did half as much work, which was still a lot of work. And so I'm thankful for that. I guess, can I like ask for questions or comments or anything?
Well, very impressive.
Thank you.
And probably, well, no question, it's a lot more fun than anything else we're going to talk about tonight. So great job.
Thank you.
If we could work that fast here, we'd be in great shape in this town. Well, we are anyway, in great shape. But I just wanted to say that you experienced in this project what you in your lifetime will probably experience in almost every project. And that's that it always ends up being more than you think it'll be, take longer than you think it'll be, cost more than you think it'll cost, and involve more people and more time than you think it would involve. And that's just, you know, no matter how good you get at this stuff, and Mr. Levine is the expert at projects in this room, he'll probably be the first person to agree with me for a change that that's the nature of projects. You know, we do the best we can, and we think about all the different aspects of it, and we plan and all that stuff. But Murphy is always out there lurking with something that we didn't think about or plan on, and that's just, you know, the way life is. So you'll do great in every project that you do in the future because of the experience you had on this one.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
I would just like to say thank you. It was extremely transformational. I loved the video, and really my favorite part was you sitting up on the bench at the end. You looked like you were just enjoying the fruits of your labor. So thank you for laboring in Imperial Beach.
Mr. Patton?
That was great. Now, Todd, every time I looked up on that scene, you were sitting on the bench. What was going on?
It says that I'm supposed to lead them. It does
Okay.
not say
Well, there you
lead
go.
by example. It just kind of.
And I remember I asked you, are you going to take joy in this project? And you stood there, yes. And I could tell you took a lot of joy and passion and responsibility into this project. I thought it was a hit. I think all presentations should include music
It was good, right?
Because normally they're better.
Yeah.
And there was one more thing. Oh, before you do a presentation, I've done a lot of presentations in my life as well as my colleagues. I never point out what was wrong, like the camera stopping. Nobody saw that. So never point out the bad stuff. Just point out the good stuff. Just word to the wise, all right?
Just
bud?
the good stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
Great job. Great job.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can be a consultant to all. Most of our consultants who talk endlessly and half as interesting and more importantly to the point. And I really like. It's one of the things we've been trying to do is just show change. I think with the fence example, you know, before and after, just showing how we're making a difference. And I think you did that with this video and the work involved. And that's something, you know, Mr. Levine's been working on is before, you know, we launched the alley paving project before, and then we'll celebrate afterwards so we can actually show change over time. So we'll be bringing you back as hopefully a volunteer consultant to work with all our very high paid consultants to educate them on how to give really good public presentations, but more importantly on making a difference. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And the mulch was 36 cubic inches. It just sounds like nothing, right? But that's
Thank you.
36 cubic yards. Sorry. Yeah. And I was like, I thought it was going to be easy.
Now we have presentation 1.2, vector control update by Chris Conlon, San Diego County supervising vector ecologist. We know it's a very, very important issue. So thank you very much.
Well, now that we've already had the most interesting thing, I'll strive to go for second most interesting thing of your evening here. And looks like this did maybe fall asleep. So, okay. All right. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of what vector control does and some of the things that we've been doing in Imperial Beach. So vector, first of all, people are always asking, what is a vector? Simple answer is it's basically anything that's capable of carrying and transmitting a disease to humans. So that would include common things like mosquitoes, ticks, rats, mice, things like that. So the vector control program is basically, we kind of strive to protect and promote the environmental and public health and safety and welfare. And we do a lot of educating and in some cases controlling for a number of those vectors, which are things like mosquitoes, ticks, and rats. However, the lion's share of what we deal with typically is going to be things like mosquitoes and rats. The four main program areas are surveillance. So that includes the monitoring of the various vectors that are out there, and in many cases, the sample collection and preparation for testing. Then we also have the control portion of the program. These are the guys that are actually out there doing the killing of the mosquitoes, and a lot of the complaint response that goes on. We have the outreach portion of the program, and these are the folks that are doing a lot of the public education out there, teaching people how they can prevent mosquito bites and prevent actually growing mosquitoes in their own backyards. And then we have our lab, which provides for in-house rapid testing of a lot of those samples so we can monitor what's going on in our local environment. Some of the quick things about mosquitoes, we've got about 24 mosquito species that are native here to our region. Of that, there's maybe 12 to 15 that are fairly commonly encountered. We also have, unfortunately, now 2 non-native species that are trying to make a home here, and I'll talk about that in just a second. It's actually only the female mosquitoes that bite people, and that's because they actually need the protein and the nutrients in that blood meal in order to ripen a batch of eggs and make more mosquitoes. And mosquitoes really don't need that much water in order to lay their eggs and survive. As long as that water's there for at least a week, they have an opportunity to at least put forth one generation. So mosquitoes have 4 basic life stages. They have the adult that lays the eggs then become larvae, those larvae then become pupae, and then we're back to adults again. And for mosquitoes, the larval and the pupal stages are purely aquatic, and in most cases, the egg stages as well. So the big diseases that we're worried about, the one right now that's probably in everybody's mind is West Nile virus. We've had an unusually, bad year for that. It's been one of our most active years for West Nile we've had in quite some time, probably since 2008. But in addition to West Nile, we also occasionally see things like Western equine encephalitis, St. Louis encephalitis. Malaria is pretty rare here. We haven't had a locally acquired case in probably over 20 years now, but it's still something that could potentially happen because we have the right species of mosquitoes that can transmit it. And now with the introduction of these 2 new non-native species of mosquitoes, we now have the potential for some other diseases that we didn't have to worry about previously, like dengue, yellow fever, and chikungunya. This new invasive species of Aedes, there's 2 of them. We have one that's called Aedes aegypti. The common name for that is yellow fever mosquito. It got that common name because it can transmit yellow fever. That doesn't mean that the ones here actually have it, but if it were ever introduced here, the possibility would exist that it could be transmitted. We've now, after the first findings of the yellow fever mosquito Aedes aegypti back in October of last year, the unusually warm, humid, and rainy weather we had all summer put out the welcome mat for that species to set up shop and expand. And it's now been found countywide. We've got findings from our northern border in Oceanside all the way down to our southern border in San Isidro, and that includes findings in Imperial Beach as well. The other species is called Aedes albopictus, so it's also known as Asian tiger mosquito. Luckily, that one hasn't spread quite as far and wide. We've only got a few findings from Barrio Logan and also from Carlsbad. But that mosquito shares almost identical life history with the yellow fever mosquito, and that they can transmit the same diseases. And they're small container breeders that really grow in people's backyards more so than they grow in waterways and things like that. So for mosquito control, this is usually done by hand or with small equipment that's handheld. And we have a group of staff that go out and perform that control throughout the county. But when the areas get to be too large or inaccessible, that's usually when we break out the helicopter. And we've got almost 50 sites now that are treated by helicopter because they're just too big and inaccessible by foot. And those are treated about every 3 to 4 weeks during the mosquito season, which typically spreads from May through October. We also can do area modification, and that could mean a lot of things. Kind of the simplest example would be, you see a bucket in somebody's backyard, it's got water and mosquitoes in it. You tip the bucket over, turn it upside down, it's not going to breed mosquitoes anymore. So that's, again, simple example, but could mean a lot of things from, filling in depressions and things like that would otherwise hold water. And of course, our public outreach, which is really important too. Again, it's that education component of teaching people not only what they can do to prevent mosquito bites, but how they can stop from breeding mosquitoes in their own backyards. And that's of particular importance right now with that new invasive species of mosquito, since it is typically a backyard breeder. So specifically Imperial Beach, the biggest problem we usually have in this area most years is salt marsh mosquitoes. And as the name implies, they breed in salt water. Typically that happens when we have the tidal events that are fairly high. The tides move in, they then spill over into low-lying areas. And if that low-lying area will hold that water for more than a week to 10 days, you're probably going to get some of those mosquitoes come off if the area is not treated. These mosquitoes are pretty aggressive day biters. They'll fly quite a ways from the marsh, upwards of 5 miles in some cases. So they'll go quite a bit. They don't transmit any diseases, but boy, are they annoying. And I'm sure some of you have probably experienced them around here. And typical season for those guys is also May through October. But the last couple of years, we've had these kind of longer summers and lack of winter. Winter kind of went south for vacation. And so we've been seeing them even well into November and December in some cases. So again, we're not sure what's going to happen this year. We'll see, but we're going to be out there working to treat them until we don't see them anymore. So as you can see from the quick little map here, there's a lot of marsh area out there to cover. Just that little block west of the air base is over 200 to 300 acres. And so depending on how those tides go, it could be very difficult to get in there and do a thorough treatment of the entire area. So the big thing here for these guys is the tides. I mean, the tide chart is probably the best friend of our staff who have to go out there and treat. And this year has been really difficult. We've had some exceptionally high tides, which have allowed for the water to infiltrate into areas that we previously don't normally see it get into. And those areas have to be treated. They could potentially produce those mosquitoes. So again, because of that, it is tricky. The other issue is that there's a very narrow window of time in which they can get in there and treat. When we're having these exceptionally high tide events, staff can't even really get in there very well because of all the water that's in the area. So they really have to wait for that 2 or 3 day high tidal, thing to pass so that the water can recede enough for them to get in and treat. So at that point, they've got a pretty narrow window. They've got to get in there usually within 3 to 5 days to get the treatment done. And if they don't make that window, they run the risk that the mosquitoes may turn into adults before they can get in there and take care of it. So it's just one of those things that's it's challenging. The environment we live in is not static, it's dynamic. I mean, every time we get a big tides like we had recently with the lunar eclipse and everything, and you probably saw the big tides that came in. Staff have to try to find all the new places where the water's holding, and it's not always easy. Sometimes it's underneath the vegetation and not easy to see, but they've done a pretty good job of getting out there and taking care of it, minus a few challenges that have occurred when the big tide events have happened. So with the mosquitoes, we got to also talk about preventative measures. And of course, the big one is the elimination of standing water. So we're always encouraging people that, if you've got anything that can hold water in the backyard, I mean, tip it over, turn it into a position that it's not going to hold water. If you are holding water for the drought to water your plants and such things, either try to use it up within 7 days or put a screen or some sort of cover on it so that the mosquitoes don't have access to it and they're able to breed into it. There is a mosquito repellent that can be used, and now there's a number of different varieties that are available, and they're all quite good. The gold standard is still those that contain the ingredient DEET, spelled D-E-E-T, but there's also some that contain ingredients such as picaridin or oil of lemon eucalyptus, and they all work well. Just follow the labels on how often they need to be applied. Of course, long sleeve shirts and pants will help. Keeping good screens on your windows and doors so that when it's warm at night, you want to sleep with those things open. You don't have the mosquitoes flocking in to come get you. And then when possible, I realize it's not always something that can be done at all times, is avoiding times when mosquitoes are most active. So, and usually that's at night. Unfortunately, if you're near the salt marsh, sometimes it's a day thing too. So, and that's my quick rundown of what we do, but I'm open for questions if you guys have any.
Questions from council members? Mr. Spriggs?
Thank you very much. Really informative. A couple kind of like dumb questions, but
I'll
will-
answer any
will-
questions.
Will help maybe everybody with an understanding. Uh, Two related ones. Are there ways to introduce predators? Do they have predators or things that like to eat mosquitoes that could be of value if we that wouldn't cause other collateral damage or unanticipated side effects that would be bad? And secondly, especially for these very high tide events, is there a way to treat the water as it's entering the river mouth so that when it floods, it's actually containing something that can take care of the mosquitoes?
All right. Let me hit both of those. I'll answer the predator question first. The answer to that one is it depends. For backyard sources like fountains or small ponds and things like that, mosquito fish can be used, and those are free from our office and from a number of distribution centers. You can look those up on our website at sdvector.com. And those fish are available to be used in those. They're really good for things that are going to hold water for longer periods of time, like say larger rain barrels, ponds, fountains, and things like that. And the fish do an admirable job of eating the mosquitoes. In situations like you mentioned in the salt marsh, pre-treatment can be done in some situations. In situations where the tide is not going to be too intrusive, yes, we can pre-treat. And we do that in some situations. The problem is we're going to get a really high tide event like that because they don't happen that often. It's hard to predict exactly where the water is going to go. And if the water comes in at too high of a volume, you run the risk that if you pre-treat, you're going to dilute or basically wash out the product before it can really have an effect. So that's something that our staff do keep an eye on. So for the larger tides, like what we just had recently, like over 7.0, you're really forced to have to wait till the tide comes in and goes out to see where the water is. For the ones that aren't quite so bad, yes, you can pre-treat, and we do that.
Additional questions? Mr. Patton?
Thanks for coming. I've had a lot of people over summer coming up to me and asking, what do we do? Because we feel trapped in our homes in the evening time. And I think we've all, I think I had the same mosquito at my house every day. What's the lifespan of these mosquitoes, first of all? And is there, on your outreach, can you maybe explain a little more of what you're doing on outreach and maybe a way for citizens of Imperial Beach to give you a call? Because
yeah, sure. Okay. For the average lifespan of a mosquito, 2 weeks would be a pretty old mosquito. That would be one that would be getting up there in time. And usually other factors in nature like predators and things like that, begin to take them out of circulation as they age up to 2 weeks. So anything over 2 weeks is a pretty darn old mosquito. So I wouldn't expect them to live much longer than that. Now, as far as outreach goes, anyone is welcome to call us. We can be reached through our website. We can be reached by phone. The number is 858-694-2888. And we post a lot of things on our website, especially with regard to what we do, where we treat, the progression of West Nile virus and what's going on in the city. We update that website twice a week during the season to try to keep people up to speed on what's going on. And we encourage phone calls. If people have questions, by all means, give us a call. If you're experiencing mosquito problems, also give us a call, and we'll send staff out to try to figure out, is it something that's originating from the marsh, or is it potentially someplace else? I mean, could it be the new invasive species, or maybe there's something going on in the neighborhood like a green pool or a ditch that's filled up and breeding? It's not always not always exactly what you happen to think it is, and that's where having staff investigate can really narrow it down and get to the point and try to treat it.
Okay, and maybe I can ask staff, is that number something that can be put on our website?
It's on our website and our Facebook page.
Great.
Well, thank you very much.
Sure.
Mr. Bilbray. Just so it sounds like just what I heard, because it sounds like the last few summers we've had these more tropical, warmer summers and and then the really warm winter. So that sounds like you mentioned that. And then this issue, this summer we had the rain. So I guess I was going to ask about, you mentioned the saltwater mosquitoes and the marsh mosquitoes, but the fact is even around those marshy areas, we had a lot of rain this summer. So would
Yes.
that might have changed the dynamic of what types of mosquitoes are using these areas or in Imperial Beach? Is that something you looked at or at all? Or
Well, that's what we're monitoring right
Okay.
now. I mean, we know through history, and we've got lots of traps along the marsh area over there to kind of monitor how the salt marsh mosquito population is going on. But one of the things that we're now seeing, mainly due to these tropical weather conditions we've had this summer in particular, is the expansion of these invasive yellow fever
Right, okay.
mosquitoes. And so that's one that is of concern because it is so good at finding all these little tiny sources that most people may not even be aware of that are in their yards. And it will take advantage of those. And because it prefers to feed on mammals, if they're breeding in your backyard, they're going to make their presence known pretty darn quick. And they're very good at just following people into the houses. They can navigate indoors rather easily. And if there's water sources even inside the home, they'll take advantage of those too. So if you have, like, say, a spare toilet, in a room that you don't use very often, they'll use that. Or an old vase of flowers sitting on the table that hasn't been dumped out in a while, they'll take advantage of that too.
So I was in Sacramento earlier in the year testifying about the need to get money spent on waste tires that are
Yeah.
obviously filling up the Tijuana River Valley, that it's the fault of the state of California for exporting to Mexico and having them washed back across. And Dave Gibson of the Regional Water Board in San Diego made a very eloquent case about why those are big vectors for yellow fever mosquitoes, and they're really concerned about that. So that's something that Cal Recycle just had a call today about, to talk about spending $300,000 to actually, first off, and we're trying to make sure they don't spend it on a consultant to actually clean up tires rather than just have another study done. So, because I think that's something I think we're all concerned about in Imperial Beach, is this proliferation of all those waste tires in the valley, literally
Yeah.
thousands of them, and that the potential for much more serious issues.
Yeah, and they hold water for a long time. And actually, the first introduction of Asian tiger mosquito into the southern United States was tracked into shipments of old tires. So we know they're very good breeders of mosquitoes. And I mean, anybody who's seen them, you wonder, how the heck does this thing have water in it all the time? They just never seem to let it go. So.
Well, thank you very much. And thanks for all the good work you're doing. And I think maybe next year what we need to do is just do much more of a proactive public campaign. Locally, I think we can work maybe with you guys just to educate our residents
Sure.
more about this. I know we all had those questions, and I know we've all been attacked by mosquitoes, so anyway, more than ever in the history of IB, I think.
that
or at least
summer was a killer
since I've
this
been a
year.
kid. Yeah. Great. Well, thank you very much.
Sure. Welcome.
Now we have consent calendar items 2.1 to 2.4. And I would like to entertain a motion to approve consent calendar items numbers 2.1 through 2.4. Right. Please vote.
Motion carried unanimously.
I know who's. It's not mine. Okay. Ordinances, introductions, first reading, 3.1, introduce ordinance number 2515 to 1153, adding chapter 5.07 of the Imperial Beach Municipal Code to provide an expedited, streamlined permitting process for small residential rooftop solar systems. Building official Holden will give a report on this item.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Sorry, no music, sort of a boring thing. The State Assembly passed legislation this past year requiring each municipality to adopt an ordinance to provide an expedited permit process. We've never had any problems in Imperial Beach. We get our permits issued quickly, doesn't take a lot of time. But somewhere obviously in the state, they were having problems, so they passed this. I'll have to come again in a few months for a similar thing for car charging stations. So we'll be doing this again. This doesn't change the code requirements at all for the systems. It just provides a method to ensure that permits are issued quickly. And we're adopting the guidebook that the state provides, along with some additional definitions that have been vetted by our city attorney. If you have any questions.
First, do we have any speaker slips, Madam Clerk? At all?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Good. Do we have any questions from the council?
it seems to me this is along the lines of really state policy and ours as well to streamline the process and encourage people to install solar. Are there other ways besides just making it easier to get permitted that this can be encouraged? For example, a public education campaign, helping residents aggregate their project so that maybe they can get a cheaper installation if it's a whole bunch of them in a neighborhood rather than one at a time.
Well, there's
So
a
that
lot
sort
of
thing.
there's a lot of competition out there, Councilman Spriggs. The guidelines allow for a small 10 kW system or less to charge $500 for the permit. We currently charge $156. So we're way below the limit where we could charge incentives would be free permits and things like that, which it would be your call. But as far as education, there's just so much online, so many things on TV now. SDG&E has a huge program encouraging this, and they're required to by the Utilities Commission. So I'm not sure if we could help. We help by issuing quickly and inspecting quickly.
Okay, I guess and this isn't just directed to you, it's really directed to our whole city staff. And I know we have limited staff resources and we have to pick and choose initiatives very carefully because there's just a limited amount of staff and staff time. But it just seems to me that Mr. Villa just walked back in. That's great. Ha, there you are. Somebody could do a service. I mean, a private citizen could do this. If they started a website or a Facebook page or something that said, look, anybody who is thinking about installing solar on their roof within this time period, let's join together, see if we can get a quote for a collective project, especially if it's in the same neighborhood where the contractor or the installer wouldn't have to go from one point to another point, et cetera. It just seems to me that some sort of broker, so to speak, or clearinghouse could, and again, it's not just you, but it's a general question for a service in a community that wants to be environmentally advanced, which is IB, that something like that could make a difference so that it isn't every homeowner or on their own, one at a time, going through this.
Mr. Mayor, maybe I could address that. A few months ago, maybe you'll remember, we had a group called Wide Green, and we passed what essentially becomes a special improvement district that is citywide where people can do just that. They take advantage of some larger pricing. We also have the HERO program and the Fig Tree program, which are all built around solar. What's the PACE it's called the PACE program at the state level. And so we do have some of that, and they can get some competitive pricing and some of those kinds of things. I know that they're actively pursuing different residences and different groups in Imperial Beach. One of the challenges we do have in Imperial Beach is we don't have very high electric consumption just because we live close enough to the coast. Inland, of course, they use a lot more electricity, and there seems to be a lot more solar going on there. But the council has taken some proactive steps to make sure that we do participate in the California PACE program, and that's a positive thing. But that doesn't mean that there couldn't be more outreach. But just want to make sure that everybody knows that this board has taken actions to be very proactive in encouraging people to put solar in their homes.
Any other questions or comments? Great. City Clerk Hall will read the title of ordinance number 2015-1153.
Ordinance number 2015-1153, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Imperial Beach, California, adding Chapter 15.07 of the Imperial Beach Municipal Code to provide an expedited, streamlined permitting process for small residential rooftop solar systems.
Great. I would like to entertain a motion to introduce ordinance number 2015-1153 by title only, waive full reading of the ordinance, and schedule the second reading and adoption of the ordinance on November 18th, 2015. Please vote.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you very much. Now we have report section of the evening. We have report 5.1, update on participation in San Diego Association of Governments iCommute Program Rideshare Month Challenge, organized by Sandag. And Management Analyst Via will give a report on this item.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. October was Rideshare Month, Sandag iCommute program. The City of Imperial Beach participated. We had some pretty good turnout and plenty of employees logged in and commuted. I'd like to start by congratulating our challenge winners. Adam from the lifeguards won a one-day vacation courtesy of City Clerk Jackie Hald. Councilmember Bragg was a champion for this effort. Then we have Paulina, who had the most trips logged. That was 39 trips. She won a $100 gift certificate. Oh, Paulina's here. There you go. And then Edward Washington had the biggest impact with the CO2 reduction, 97 pounds of CO2 reduced in the month of October. So congratulations to them. As for citywide, we had 80 days logged total. We were 6th place in the medium category out of 23 companies that participated in this challenge. A total of 903 pounds of carbon dioxide saved from going out to the environment. And we saved $421 in travel costs. Next, I'd like to give it to Ms. Bragg.
Thank you. First of all, Mr. Villa, would you go back to the slide that had all of our employees that we took a picture of? And that isn't everybody. Andy Hall was actually, he participated, and so did Doug participated in a variety of alternative modes, and Mr. Levine did as well. Didn't have the time to put in his many trips that he had actually logged in. The photos that are of me, because I am a rideshare champion, and I utilized different modes of transportation in my rideshare month of October. There I am at Union Station in Los Angeles, utilizing the Amtrak. That trip was always, Amtrak is always fun. You can go to the next one, Ed. There I am. This was the first day of October. I wasn't in San Diego. I was in San Jose. This is at the Convention Center station. Ed, you remember, was right across the street from the Convention Center. The person who took the picture actually worked for the system in San Jose. I was trying to poach him, gave him my business card and asked him to come work for MTS. He was a lot of fun and I think would be a great employee. Next one, Ed, I'd ask Ed to put this in. I took advantage of Community Service Day this year. This was the bus stop on 9th Street, and 9th and Encina. So one day I said, had been saying, that bus stop needs to be cleaned up. That bus stop's a mess. That bus stop's a mess. And I thought, I'm going to go do it. So this is what it looked like on a Saturday morning when I got there. And if you'll go to the next one, this is what it looked like when I was done. I had the best time doing this. People are coming up to me and asking me, who are you? Do you live here? Why are you doing this? And one bus driver, every time he looped by, he beeped his horn. But the neighbors came by and thanked me for doing it. But again, it just showed with a little bit of elbow grease, you can get something done. And the next slide, this is actually, these are committee members for the Accessibilities Committee at MTS. We were taking a field trip utilizing the new paratransit system and with the mobile data terminals. These are members of the community and also members of that board. I just wanted to throw that picture in. They also commute all the time on our system. And this was just a photograph. This was, our sheriff lieutenant isn't here. This was a grant that MTS had got for you to utilize it. Oh, perfect timing. Dave, you may remember this, where we utilized a lot of the sheriff department throughout the county, using them as security and fair inspection. that the MTS had received a grant for. So I'm extremely proud of the city of Imperial Beach and our employees that participated. They really talked it up. It really bonded over it. And Edward, our first place winner, has been biking from the city of down near San Isidro and has lost 30 pounds. So it pays to be active. So thank you, Mr. Villa, for putting this together for us.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Villa. Great presentation and great work. Okay, now we have item 5.2, update from the 2015 annual meeting of the California League of Cities. City Manager Hall will give a report on this item, but we have two council members giving this report. Is that right? Correct?
Correct.
Councilmember Bragg, did you want to start first? I think you have a shorter presentation than
I can.
Mr. Spriggs. Okay.
Okay. I would like to thank Mr. Villa for putting together this PowerPoint for us. These were breakout sessions that Mr. Spriggs and I had attended at the California League of Cities. Of course, it's a 3-day conference, and you go to many breakout sessions. These two really spoke to me. I wanted to bring them back to this council. These are actually both of these items that I'm going to present tonight. I am seeking action on from this council. One is well, as we go through, you'll see. I'm not going to go through each slide. Ed, if you'll just kind of go through them. The first one was community service days, and I spoke about that just a minute ago. City of Paris and the city of Pleasant Hill had two incredible days, or two incredible projects that they did. They actually had 50 projects completed in one day. So what they had done, if you'll just kind of keep rolling through this, here were the ingredients for successful projects. They had vision, partners, organizing team, planning tools, funding systems, and promotions. Of course, this didn't just happen overnight. Most of their days that they selected as community service days were in September. So you can see that with vision, you can build community, expand volunteerism, help the less fortunate, teach the next generation, and get more done. One of the reasons why I thought this was important for the city of Imperial Beach is that we have very limited resources. We live in a resource-constrained environment. By boiling this all down into one day, I think it would be much easier on our staff and actually easier on our community. These were some of the partners and the projects that these other two cities utilized. Of course, this is a template, something that we could do ourselves. Next slide, Ed, if you would. And then again, they had a team of people, and I think that we're learning that we have many people in the community ready to step up to the plate. We're utilizing our community members more and more and recognizing their talents and involvement. If you would, the next one. This is just planning ahead. Again, a template that we could use where they found some funding. We always seem to go to the same potential funders. This is kind of the ones partners that they had in their community, but we always need to be thinking more outside the box. We continually tap the same people for additional investments in our community. We need to look a little bit further. One of the keys that made their program so successful was their organizing systems. I think we have some people in-house who, Mr. Villa being one of them, who are very good at this kind of thing, and also members of the community who could help us achieve the organizational backbone that is needed to make this event successful. If you would, Ed, the next slide. Obviously, getting the word out, we keep hearing that over and over again. I'm again recommending that we would pick a day in September that gives us 9 months to work on it and see this come to fruition, starting possibly as soon as January with outreach. Again, the ingredients for the project that would make it successful, and then the results. So on this particular item, I would like to have our council vote to give direction to staff to select a date in September and move ahead with a community service day project. I'm not sure if we need to Mr. Hall, I'm looking for a little bit of direction there. If there's anything more that we need to hammer out, or if we could just here tonight pick a day in September, or colleagues, if you'd like to weigh in on this. I'm not sure. what more is needed? That is not going to have September on it, is it? No.
Yeah, if the city council wants to, it might be best if you just pick a month. We can pick a day and make sure we look at the calendar and the different calendars of the different community groups to make sure that we're not interfering with something, and we can organize if you want to have a community day, community service day, something like that, we could start to put that together.
Okay. Then I would make a motion that we have if colleagues, I'd like a little bit of input on that, but to select September as our Community Service Day month and have staff pick a day for us, could possibly be the third Saturday in September, provided there is no other competing event, and move forward with, starting the selection of projects that we would like to compete. I think that 50 is a pretty large number of projects to be completed, but in what these two cities had done it was actually have other members of the community submit projects. So it could be a church, it could be cleaning a park, it could be painting some benches. So the projects don't necessarily all have to be large to be considered. They just have to be a project that could be completed in a day.
Could we just maybe, before choosing a month, just maybe choose the concept of thing is great, but then have the staff evaluate the month, because we want to get the kids involved. I'm not sure if kids in Mar Vista are back in school in September, so a lot of them are gone. And then we've got all the coastal cleanup days, and then the Tijuana River Action Month. So we've got all these volunteer-driven events in September, which is a really busy month. So just something to think about. I know I just talked to the community development director of National City; they do it as well. But maybe just get some feedback from the staff on just what would be the best month or the best timing. Maybe it could be the spring, late spring, so with the kids, we get all the kids excited about it, or just to make sure we don't miss any opportunities just by choosing a month without talking about it first.
The reason why I had picked September is I think that nationally, it's the month that is recognized. So that nationwide, communities across the country are doing it. One of the things to keep in mind is that, of course, on the promotion side is the social media platforms that we would look at. But to be clear is that what makes it successful is that there's a project for every age and every interest and every ability. So, some of the projects that you were talking about could be consolidated into this, Community Action Day or Community Service Day. So I'm seeing the city attorney. Did you have something you needed to weigh in on? Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So is the motion still to have it in September then? It's called National Service Month?
It's Community Service Day, but nationally, that's the month that most communities are choosing is September. I think it would work well for us because it would give us 9 months to prepare for. So there's a.
Did you want to vote?
Okay.
Please vote.
Okay. Ready to vote?
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, colleagues. The second one that I wanted to bring forward to my
Are
colleagues.
there going to be more votes and more action items on this as well?
This one, yes. This is a community wellness. And this is actually.
Can I make a comment? I just think in the future, it'd be great if we're going to give presentations versus action items, that we're just maybe be more clear with the agenda so that we can invite the community to participate, and it's just a little bit of more awareness of what we're doing agenda-wise and the process. So we're all aware. I wasn't aware that we're going to be discussing community service night. We put together the agenda, so.
Okay.
And just so that we have more of an opportunity to have the public involved and just get people engaged and just do some thinking behind it. So we're not surprised, that's all.
Okay, I certainly appreciate that and apologize for my eagerness. I did have one more that I was going to seek direction on. In light of what you have just suggested, Mayor, I will not seek action on it.
Well, I think
And we'll move
I'm sure it's going to be awesome.
I just
So
won't
please
seek action.
proceed.
We can possibly bring it back. Second one is just community wellness. Mr. Villa, if you would follow along with me. This was a great presentation, and it really goes along so much with what our community and I think my colleagues are thinking of in a direction that we're taking. It's the Institute for Institute for Local Government. This was sponsored by them, presented by them. It was 2 cities again here in California that had, Ed, if you'll just kind of follow along, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but 2 of the cities had really, really grabbed a hold of the idea of a healthy community. And it was the city of Paris and Rancho Cucamonga. And each year they have brought forward different projects that the city could embrace. And there's, we're just going to look at the slides. I'm not going to read them all. It's slide, Ed's got them there. You can pass on that one. But it's just some of the things that they had done. And again, focusing on the wellness of a community. We're talking about the physical health, and we talked a little bit earlier about the mental health of a community. So again, just moving our city into a more healthy community, addressing the physical and social health of the community by creating a holistic, healthy attitude for our residents. And again, the community is not just about the geography, it's actually what's inside of it, it's the people. And honestly, as leaders, that's what we should be concerned about, is the health of our people. I have thought of a title for it, Riding the Wave of Good Health. See? You thought it was going to be awesome, and it is. And with a ruthless focus, especially on planning, this is really, I think, when we're talking about planning in our community, on issues such as safe routes to schools, recognizing restaurants that serve healthy foods, farmers market that have at least 75% of healthy and fresh food, our Complete Streets program. Some of this we're already doing. But these address issues such as stress and anger management, obesity, bullying, depression, substance and alcohol abuse, anxiety, and so many more. And our residents truly need to know that from the top down or from the bottom up, we are committed to a healthy IB. So I would hope that in the future, as possibly a policy, that when we're doing planning, when we're discussing some of our action items, that we truly do look at, does it enhance the health of our community? Thank you.
Did you want to have a, do you have a proposal for us?
No. Because I really did take to heart what you said. I misunderstood what the city manager had instructed me to do. And I do feel like I kind of preempted decisions here, and I didn't mean to do that.
No,
I would just encourage us that moving forward, that when we're talking about planning and projects and safe streets and all of the projects that Mr. Levine brings to us, that we really do consider, does it really enhance the health of the citizens of Imperial Beach?
I think it's a great concept, and we had Global Wellness Day that we celebrated last year. I wasn't here that day. My dad did it, and maybe we could, I think it's a great agenda item for the future, and we could bring Kimberly Marshall, who works for the Pacifica Hotels. She organized that. Maybe start planning that now, and that could be an agenda item. I've actually been invited to speak at the Global Wellness Summit in Mexico City next week. I'm one of the few mayors that they've invited to speak, and they're really interested in looking at promoting Imperial Beach as a wellness destination. And more importantly, promoting a healthy community. And I think that can go along with our Parks and Rec survey, maybe. So let's think about putting that on the agenda, Bobby.
Yeah, I went to Global Health Day at the new hotel, and it was a hit. But it was the first one,
right?
And you could tell that the next one's going to be even bigger, and incorporating some of the things that you had mentioned, which I didn't see there. But I think as a first event, I'd definitely love to see the second, and for this to keep moving for Imperial Beach.
Well, what I'll do is, Councilmember Beck, I can connect you with Kimberly Marshall, and then you can connect with her, and then I agree with you wholeheartedly. Let's figure out how to make IB the healthiest community on the planet. That's what we need to strive for. And I think all young residents and all of our residents are totally into that. I think there's a lot of support for it, so it's great. Great, Mr. Spriggs.
Excuse me, I want to go through these fairly quickly. My intention here was that whenever we go on a conference, whoever goes should bring back to the city council some of the highlights of what they learned, and that highlights not just everything they did, but things that really have some relevance to Imperial Beach and that we as a council ought to be thinking about. And I think that Councilmember Bragg did that. She attended a lot more workshops than she mentioned, and the same with me. And so I think we're trying to, in the spirit of informing the council of, some ideas and ways that we can think about how we can act to improve quality of life in Imperial Beach. So very much along those lines, 3 of the workshops that I attended, I think were really relevant to Imperial Beach, and you can see them there. And they all touch on different things. So talking first about art and cultural districts, and I'll give credit to the presenters here. Next one, please. There was recent legislation that's been passed now by the governor, signed by the governor, AB 189, that allows the state and authorizes the state to create, on the request of local communities and jurisdictions, a state designated cultural district. Next one. It's going to operate by a competitive application system. It can be across jurisdictions, can be suburban, urban, rural, etc. There will be technical assistance available from the state for branding and signage, tourism efforts, communication and coordination, and this all relates to Imperial Beach seeing itself as an ecotourism, a healthy ecotourism destination, and also what we are trying to do in terms of branding our community. Next. So there are lots of different benefits and ways that this can be utilized, including economic and cultural development, and enhancing our economy and our branding as a tourism and ecotourism healthy community, using arts and culture. Next. So I'm just putting this out to the council. This is a different workshop, but just putting out to the council that what I'd like to see is for us to further investigate how we could tie into this new state program. It's brand new, and see if there are any resources that could be brought to Imperial Beach. We have art and cultural assets, such as great venues, Veterans Park, the whole area along Seacoast Drive, including the street with closures. We haven't done an art walk there yet, but that's in the works. And we also have the Estuary Visitor Center, which has a wonderful amphitheater, which can be used for musical and other events with the permission of the folks who operate it. So moving right along, the retail issue is very apropos in Imperial Beach. One of our public commentators talked about some of the mixed-use projects. And there was a great panel discussing the challenges of retail. Next. In terms of retail areas, what's really important that these experts mentioned is the need for a vision. What do you want your retail areas to look like? Don't just let the market be the boss. We need to, through zoning and other approaches, have the vision of what we want and try to support achieving that. And it needs to be durable beyond each of our elections, so that there's a strategy and a part of the city's plan in the long run. And they all, in various ways, said that great public infrastructure that's pedestrian friendly, including landscaping, lighting, and other amenities, is essential to attract the right kind of businesses and customers. Next. Now, here are some really interesting things I learned regarding mixed-use retail. Mixed use is where you have residential and commercial combined. We have a number of projects, one along Old Palm that just was completed not too long ago that we approved and is now done, a couple along Seacoast Drive and other locations in the community as well. The economic reality is that the retail component can be a lower priority for a developer, a sponsor, an owner. then selling the condos up above, which produce the lion's share of their revenue and profits, and they're done once they sell the condos. Whereas the retail is a rental operation that continues and may just be there, quite frankly, to justify the project as being in a attractive commercial area, like some of ours are. The key for the city is to ensure that the mixed-use retail aspect of it really works and doesn't get abandoned or have high turnover, and that there's quality retail in these areas. So one of the things I pointed out is that the project really has to be built and stick with design elements that allow for maximum marketability to good retailers. So some of the things that we've done, like reducing the height limits, may or may not reduce the marketability for the kind of restaurants that would want to locate in some of these mixed-use projects. Obviously, if it's going to be a restaurant, the kitchens have to be roughed out so that there is ventilation and grease disposal, proper plumbing, all that stuff. Next. Sometimes it's necessary from the bad experience of other cities to hold developers accountable for maintaining the quality that we approved in as city council or any city council in the permitting process and in the zoning approval. City staff needs to work with the property owners to make sure that they do occupy the retail areas with the right kind of retailers, and it may even be necessary for city staff to work on the marketing, collaborate on the marketing of the retail. At every opportunity, I think many of us, I certainly do, at South County EDC events, mention the new retail opportunities that will be emerging in Imperial Beach in these mixed-use projects. Next. All right, next and last major workshop. So this is really something close to my heart. This involves a whole different dimension here, and that is summer interns and a potential partnership with our own Mar Vista High School to help students get experience and to infuse some youth and the kind of liveliness that we had in our presentation with music, etc. earlier in the meeting. Next. So the city of Sacramento put on a great presentation about their what I'd call Cadillac version of a summer intern program. Next. And the vision was they really wanted to empower youth to become civically engaged leaders through real world experiences working with different city agencies, etc. Next. You can see how this thing grew. I mean, Sacramento's a major city. They put a lot into this, but it didn't all start at once. I mean, they started with 30 schools in one school district and then ended up with 104 students in 3 school districts. And they got really good ethnic integration. They were targeting disadvantaged youth quite explicitly with this effort. Next. Why civic leadership and why should we be concerned about our youth, including our own students at Mar Vista? Well, you can see here that we're not doing too well as a major democracy. And every community needs to do what it can to try to have more citizen participation. Next. So you can see what some of the objectives were of the Sacramento program. Some of these could apply here in Imperial Beach as well. Next. The structure, again, this is the Cadillac program, 7 weeks during the summer. The morning was instruction by a certified teacher. The afternoon were the actual internships. They provided breakfast and lunch, and they provided stipends. These are all Cadillac kinds of program elements that aren't necessarily what we would do. Next. And here's the curriculum, the different subjects, all really great and tied to the internships. Next. Some of the students involved. Next. Now, we don't have all these departments that Sacramento does. Obviously, we're a much smaller town, but some of them we do have. City council offices, city attorney, city clerk, our Human Resources Department, Sheriff and Fire, even some private entities in Imperial Beach. They list the Bank of America here. I mean, that's another way to go as well. Next. These are some of the outcomes that are, I think, to be expected, and that the kids participating really have an awareness of how municipal government works, its role in the community. They learn interpersonal skills, job-ready skills, etc. Next. And you can see in internships, the work experience, the communication, the sense of responsibility, and other elements depending on what's included in the program. Next slide. So my thought here is that, and I've talked over the years from time to time about, having some sort of more organized internship program here, that this is a perfect opportunity for a partnership with Mar Vista that could really help the school, help our kids, and also, help us. Promote civic engagement, give students work experience, give real meaning to their civics courses at Mar Vista because they'd have some practical experience. We could start off very modestly, 5 to 10 interns, maybe as little as 2 weeks, as much as 7 weeks. We could find out if Mar Vista would, one of their civics teachers would want to offer a summer short course for the interns and include some of the elements that would complement the work that the kids are doing as interns. And we as council members and city staff could also be guest speakers in those classes and help enrich what's going on there. Next. So that's really the idea there. And I'm not really asking for action, but I'm really passing this on to the city council members and city staff that this is something that could be very meaningful, again, contributing to the health and vitality in a different way of Imperial Beach by us doing something for these kids who are, on the threshold of going to college or going out into the job market and becoming voters at the age of 18. A couple other quick slides here. Go back to that last one, please. The Coastal Cities Interest Group is one of the committees that I'm on with the League. The League of California Cities has actually, it's more like 45 coastal cities that are participants in this work group. And they meet 2 to 4 times a year. At this meeting, which was about a 2-hour lunch meeting, we had a legislative update. We talked about the Coastal Commission guidelines and a very important thing that affects Imperial Beach. We are the last piece of the California Coastal Trail. And this is something that we need to really pay a little bit more attention to because this can bring tourism to us. This trail runs from the northernmost part of California all the way down the coast to the Mexican border. And we need to really, I think, be a little bit more active in promoting it. The last thing I wanted to talk about, next slide, is that we actually had a vote at the League of Cities. And there were 3 resolutions that we voted on. And these are essentially what they were. And one of them was to, I think I mentioned at one of our workshops, to prevent overconcentration of alcohol and drug abuse treatment facilities in residential neighborhoods. That was unanimously approved. The other one was to give local governments like ourselves a handle on the short-term rentals that do not come within the city's grasp in terms of TOT or even knowledge, because they're booked by Airbnb and other internet services, and they're essentially beyond the reach of the legal system and the regulatory system and the TOT system. So this SB 593 by McGuire was unanimously passed by the League voting members present to encourage its passage in both houses and signature by the governor, so that all of us would have more ability to get information about these short-term rentals booked in this manner, and to find ways to capture the revenue from them. So that's basically the main things that I wanted to report on. There's one more slide, and that is, yes, next slide. Some additional workshops that I attended, but don't want to talk about at this point. And that's basically it. I'm really hoping that we can get some feedback right now on both of these. Were they too long? Do you guys think that these were, what both Councilmember Bragg and I presented are things that are indeed relevant for us to think about or not? In future conferences, what kinds of things should we be bringing back to the council to share? So thanks very much for your time.
Thank you. Councilmember Patton? No, not at all. Good, okay.
I appreciate, my colleagues enduring these presentations. When you go to the presentation, you're there in person. Of course, you get a lot out of it, and you feel empowered, and you're passionate about it. You want to bring it back to your colleagues to share. So a lot gets lost in the transportation and the miles back home and the hours and days and weeks that pass since you are at the presentation. But Ed and I did feel that these were important. I attended some of the same ones that he did, and we would turn to each other and say, we got to talk about this when we get home. And in the past, we haven't done that. All of us who have gone to these conferences come back and report and say, hey, I was at the conference and I really learned a lot. And you come back armed with all of this literature that you dump on the city manager's desk or the sheriff's desk or Hank's desk, and you hope that they act on it. So, and I think we're all a little bit disappointed in that. So Ed and I on the airplane back, we're just trying to figure out a way that we could, bring this back to our colleagues and get some input, have you weigh in on it. Again, you weren't there, you didn't hear it firsthand, but we're hoping that you see the importance in it, that you get as excited as we are about it. Mayor, you and I had gone to a conference, and sometimes the best conversations are on the airplane on the way up and the way back, and we really get an opportunity to talk to each other. But we were hoping that, again, you share our passion for the project or the sessions that we did attend, and would hope to implement them. And again, I apologize for asking for action on that item. I guess I got confused and was seeking just direction for the city to move it forward, for staff to move it forward. One of the things that stood out in my mind from one of the presenters was, and it was about the community wellness and the community service day, was that it really has to start with the city manager, because if the city manager wholeheartedly embraces these ideas, that it will filter down. So I know I'm kind of putting a lot on you, Mr. Hall, and you and I have had discussion about, and I've had discussion with staff and colleagues and members of the community, residents in the city of Imperial Beach really are concerned about our health. And Mayor, I'd like to, include you on that as well, and my other colleagues. And one of the things that they had talked about in one of the presentations in particular was that each council member would lead an activity for a day or for a week or for a month or for a year. And one of them was surfing, one of them was bike riding, one of them was, walks in the park, one of them was a historical walk or a nature walk. So there are components that each one of us could lead. And again, I believe that part of our duties in being elected is to take care of our residents as well. So again, colleagues, just hoping that you get as excited as we were from coming back. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Any other comments? Okay.
Gather my thoughts. So, Councilmember Bragg, passionate, like always, but you could tell you were really into both of these, since I understand your enthusiasm on those. So I don't think you need to apologize to anybody. Councilmember Spriggs, I really like the idea of Marvist interns. That's something I think, can be tightened up, and I know one meeting I went to, they actually had high school students shadow city council members, and I really like that as well. I think the reporting back you asked about, I think the report back was great. I think like in a 3 to 5 minute report back with music would be good. And whoever, if it's something that you really feel passionate about, maybe volunteer to lead that item that you brought back would possibly, would be an idea of mine. So that's my feedback.
Councilmember Bilbray, any? Good. Thank you very much. I echo Councilmember Patton's well thought out thoughts. So anyway, good. Thanks. I like the idea of reporting back on these items. So that's good. And I think all of them are great ideas. I love the Arts and Culture District. Love the idea of internships and wellness day. And what did we vote on again? Service day. Thank you. Okay. That was, all actually great ideas. And I think looking forward to seeing our city manager take the initiative to make this happen. Anyway, thanks to Mr. Villa for putting the presentation. All right. With that, we adjourn the regular meeting. Thank you, everyone. And then I would like to call the closed session meeting to order. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Patton,
Here.
Councilmember Bragg,
Here.
Councilmember Spriggs,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Bilbray, Mayor Dedina.
Here.